I want to thank everybody for coming. I think the commissioners have already been called to order upstairs. I'm going to ask Chairman Breedlove if he'll call the planning board to order before we get started.
I call the Tuesday, February the 11th, 2020 Planning Board to order.
All right, now don't let me forget to adjourn. You'll know, you'll feel it.
9:45, sir.
I want to call on Chairman Davis first to welcome everybody, and he's got a couple remarks before we get started.
Just a couple, Lenny. First of all, I appreciate everyone being here tonight. On behalf of our board, or the planning board, we really want to thank y'all for what y'all do. I know you got a tough job. We sometimes see things a little bit different. Y'all have a job to do as it relates to planning. We have a job to do as it relates to trying to make everybody in our district happy. So that's why we sometimes get a little bit different ideas, but I promise you, our board is very sensitive to what y'all do, and 90% of the time we're right with you. And but I know you spend a lot of time at it. On behalf of the board, I just want to thank every one of you, and of course the staff that's here. We'd like to thank y'all as well for taking part in this participation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The purpose of tonight's meeting, as you all know, is to talk about our land development plan. It is time for us to revise the land development plan. What I hold right now is our current land development plan. It was adopted in 2006. Anytime I'm at the podium before either of the boards, you'll often hear me refer to this anytime we're doing a rezoning, a special use permit, conditional use permit. We are required to have a plan and to consult it when we make a land use decision. We're not always required to follow the letter of it because the state law recognizes that no plan is perfect, and there has to be room for deviation when you're dealing in the real world. But we want to dial it in and get it. We want to produce a product that gets us the results that we want. This is a general guide for how we anticipate or how we want the county to be developed. It does not include our municipalities. There's going to be a map activity at the end of tonight's meeting. The maps that's going to be on your table, there's one hanging on the wall over here. And what you'll notice is that all the municipal planning jurisdictions are grayed out. Those are under the authority of those individual towns. And so it's really the white and the other colored spaces that we're talking about planning for in the county, which presents a difficult challenge because when you think about the county, the first places you think of as quote unquote places are in the towns. And we have the difficult task of anticipating what's going to happen in the spaces between. And so that's a unique thing that we need to think about and try to grapple with. Our current plan has three major sections. It has a section of policy recommendations that were things that were land use concerns back in 2006, and undoubtedly we don't have the same list of concerns now. It has a list of land use categories: rural growth, suburban growth, general commercial, rural commercial, industrial, and a definition for each of those. And then it has a map where it applies those to different geographic areas of the county. And so we want to revise that plan. Typically, in the past, we, as well as other local governments, have hired a planning consulting firm to assist us with that, and that is our plan this time as well. We're going to put together an RFP, or request for proposal, that we will send out to multiple consulting firms and get them to propose to us their plan for revising our plan. But we need to give that RFP some shape. We need to put some direction in there so that the consultants we're soliciting can steer us toward the product that we want. And so that's the purpose of tonight's meeting. It is rare for the commissioners and the planning board to be together. It hasn't happened in my decade career with Nash County, so this is a momentous night for that. But it's also another rare opportunity because when do we get to talk about land use when you don't have an applicant in front of you that has a set of specific interests and you don't have something you're expected to vote on right then? And so some of that pressure is off to have a more free and clear discussion, and that's a rare opportunity that we have tonight. We have worked with Mr. Bruce Naglin, who is here tonight from the North Carolina Department of Commerce. Specifically, he's with the NC Main Street and Rural Planning Center to put together a list of questions and discussion topics that we hope will steer us in the right direction. There'll be opportunities for you to add to that list, of course, if you have something you want to bring up that we don't cover. But we really hope to generate just a list of things, priorities and goals that we can use to steer that consultant as we go through this process. Before I turn it over to Bruce to facilitate the meeting, I want to briefly just go through the tables, and if you can give us your name and your position, what, if you're on a board, if you're a staff member, what your position is, and then we'll get started. So we'll start right here with Mr. Breedlove.
Liam Breedlove, Planning Board Chairman.
Wayne Outlaw, Vice Chairman of the Commissions. Kevin Smith, Planning Board Member.
Mariana Waters, Cooperative Extension Office.
Vince Durham, Nash County Attorney.
Lewis, West County Commissioner, District 1.
Patsy McGee, Assistant to the County Manager.
Sandra Edwards, Planning Board Member.
Sandy Hall, Cooperative Extension Director.
Dan Cone, Commissioner, District 3.
Jeff Tobias, Planning Board Vice Chairman.
Miriam Wells, District 6.
Andy Hagee, Economic Development Director.
Chris Sanford, Planning Board Member.
Janice Evans, Clerk to the Board.
Robbie Davis, Commissioner, District 7 and Chairman currently.
Z Lamb, County Manager.
Barbara Pooley, Planning Board Member.
Nancy Nixon, former Planning Director.
Sue Leggett, County Commissioner, District 4.
Moses Brown, Planning Board Member.
Jonathan Boone, Director of Public Utilities and Facilities.
Susan Phelps, Retail Economic Developer.
D. Parker, Planning Board.
Fred Belfield, County Commissioner, District 2.
Stacy Schatzer, Assistant County Manager.
Jimmy Glover, Planning Board Member.
I'm going to pass around this sign-in sheet. Everybody's name should be on it. If you'll just sign your name beside it, we'll start at this table and it'll work its way that way. And then I'm going to turn it over to Bruce.
Well, good evening. Glad to be here tonight, and we're going to try to get through this together. I think it should be fun. It should be interesting, hopefully, and we'll see how it goes. The agenda says that we're going to get out of here by 8:30. Hopefully, maybe if we do it quickly, but thoroughly. Don't misunderstand. I don't want to leave anything unturned, but maybe we can get out of here a little before that, which would be to everybody's benefit. So anyway, you've got the agenda in front of you, so I'm not going to go through that stuff. But my role is I'm not going to contribute to any of your ideas. I'm just going to write some of them down, or most all of them down. I will not evaluate or judge your ideas. If you see me roll my eyes or anything, just slap me, and I'll quit doing that. I won't do that, though, at all. But our role is really to focus your energies on the task before us today, which is to get your input. Also to ensure that each of your thoughts, ideas are brought out and clarified, and to help you reach a consensus as a group on your goals and strategies. The ground rules are we're going to take turns speaking, so not everybody's yelling at once, because I'm not that good at writing that way. You're also seated at tables. You're sort of like teams, and we'll be kind of a team a little bit later on as we go through this process. But during those processes, we don't want any one person dominating the conversation. Everybody should be playing an active role throughout the night. If a statement or an idea is unclear, please ask for clarification. Respect everyone's opinion. No side conversations. Silence will imply agreement. So if there's at some point during tonight, there'll probably be several times, does everybody agree? At least during your table conversations, you should all say yes or whatever, or say something, yes or no. And I made sure I did mine before I say this, but please turn off or mute your cell phones and put them in your pocket somewhere, or purse or pocketbook, so that way we're not I always distracted, that's the word, distracted. Misspelling on the flip charts is okay. And important decisions will be made by consensus. Are there any others? Any other things that we should have? Oh, there's one big thing on here too. I always like to have fun. A lot of who do this are really serious guys and girls and women and stuff. I'm serious about what I do, and I do it fairly well, but I like to have fun too, so we will laugh tonight. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, good. And y'all can laugh too every once in a while, especially if I make a joke. Everybody can laugh. Okay. I'll get scared if I don't make a joke and you laugh, but we'll go from there. Okay, we're going to get right to it then. The first thing is we're going to ask several open-ended questions, and the first one is What things about Nash County do you think make it a good place to live and work? You can just raise your hand or however you want to do it. Not all at once.
I think Nash County is the perfect location. You're 40 minutes from the state capitol. You're 2 hours, 15 minutes to the coast. You've got good interstate access to get north or south either way. It's just a good environment because of the location.
Okay. And I apologize if I put my back to anybody. Yes, sir.
Well, Nash County is unique in that it's located on major highways such as 95, 264, 64. Also has an airport. So transportation is unique and is, to me, is very attractive to attract industry, especially economic development.
Now, here you say attractive to industry?
Right. For economic development.
Yes, sir.
I think Nash County has a very appealing cost of living overall, appealing tax rates.
And I'm the only one that has to read this, so. Yes, ma'am.
Nice balance of urban and rural areas.
Okay. Yeah, what things about Nash County do you think make it a good place to work and live? Or live and work?
A good place to raise family.
And also, if we move ahead on one of the questions and later on you think, oh, I should have said that. You have some cards and paper and pens and stuff, jot it down, remember the question and the number, and just jot that down. We can add it to it later on, so, okay? Yes.
It's pretty easy to get around in the county. It's not congested, but and there's a good road system within the county.
Okay,
It's big, so sometimes
Yeah.
it just takes time, but it's pretty easy to get around.
Just for clarification, this question, you mean all of Nash County? Like even the municipalities that we're not necessarily concerned with?
I
from
think
a
we're talking
planning-
specifically about the county,
The county, okay.
correct? Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, anything else?
When you're just talking about the county, I would say clean and safe.
Okay. Anything else?
I think for the most part, and this is not a joke, we have good leadership. That's why I'm saying we're stuck out in the county when it comes to leadership.
Okay.
Just aesthetically, it's a pretty place to live.
Okay. Any more?
We have a very diverse populace that, for the most part, get along pretty well together.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
A diverse population
Okay.
that, for the most part, get along very well together.
Let me just say pro-development.
Protocol. Okay. anything else? Go on to the next one. Let's go on to the next one. Like I said, we can add to this later as we go along. Number 2, and the question is, what are some positive development changes or trends in Nash County that you've noticed over the past 10 years or so? So what are some of the positive development trends or changes that you've noticed in the past 10 years or so in Nash County?
I think one thing as far as industry, we're willing to build shell buildings that enhance people from the Nash County, which shows we're willing to put our money where our mouth is.
Okay. So invest in infrastructure, economic development.
We're not asking them to do everything, we're willing to help do it.
Okay.
Solar farm, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think she's,
No, I was gonna say, growth. Shops and restaurants.
okay, so commercial.
Right.
Okay.
So development of solar farms.
Okay.
Housing starts are back up from where they were earlier. That's good.
Steady tax rate, 67 cents.
I think we have a vastly growing recreation department. throughout the
Which
county.
kind?
Recreation
Oh,
department.
the first
throughout.
part was,
Quickly growing.
quickly, okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, Parks and recreation or just recreation? or-
Parks and recreation.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Commissioner Wells,
Resources. Resources for our senior citizens.
Commissioner Wells mentioned infrastructure. The county also started developing a countywide water system.
Okay. Anybody else? Again, if you think of something, we can write it down and add it to it later.
Got one in here.
Yeah.
We made significant improvement in our airport.
Broadband initiative through the county.
Improvement in our fire and rescue.
Say again?
Improvement in our fire and rescue.
Okay. Does that include equipment, expansion? All of that? Okay, equipment.
Along those lines, we've expanded to have 10 EMS stations,
Okay.
which is quite a bit, quite a few.
How much was it before?
Well,
Started out with 3.
it started
Start
out
with 3? Okay. So it's gone to now 10?
In the last couple years, they added
Oh,
a
okay.
10th. Yeah,
Dan made it.
Dan's. That's when you'll take.
Okay.
Investment in new schools.
I think we're finally beginning to see our melting pot develop in Nash County.
First population.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, people coming in from other areas, et cetera. Long time we didn't see much of that, but we do now. Did I use the
Okay.
correct term or not?
I feel like we're, just real quick, I feel like we're closer to, to sound odd, closer to Wake County and the Triangle and kind of the major population center than we've been, I think, as a result of, the bypass, 264 bypass and just general growth is kind of pulling us that way. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to think of how
I
to
know,
do that.
I'm trying, I didn't articulate that very
Yeah,
well.
no, you did, I understand. So,
Increased access to the triangle.
Yeah, that'd be
Access.
And even though it's in Rocky Mounts DMV coming,
Right.
that wouldn't have
exactly.
happened with the old 64.
Right.
okay, so,
I mean, just from a
But Patsy had
sheer,
it right.
yeah,
because proximity, we're not talking about proximity.
Increased access.
Increased
Access.
access, okay.
Improved access.
Improved access.
Improved
Right.
access.
There we go.
to and from, really,
Two-way access.
exactly.
How about that?
Two-way, make sure you want
To Raleigh or Wake?
To the
the
triangle.
Triangle.
yeah.
Triangle, okay. Okay. Anything else? Move on.
I think with the development of the Rocky Mountain Mills and with Nash Community College, with the culinary program and the brewing incubator, Nash County is able to bring some new industry that way into this area.
You said the mills, and what else was it?
The community college, the culinary program, and the brew incubator.
Right.
Sorry about that. I thought I had it on. Do not disturb.
Nope, everybody's just glad it was you. And
Now it's off. That's all right.
We'll just double check ours.
I thought I put it on do not disturb when I came.
On to 3? Because we got a ton more to go through.
Still have a hard time getting it out.
So, okay, now for the hard part.
Good.
What are some of the negative things, development changes or trends in Nash County you've noticed over the past 10 years or so? Some of the negative development changes or trends in Nash County.
It'll be a tough one.
School performance.
School performance?
Me and Kevin said that.
At the same time.
Well, we decreasing agricultural land, which decreasing the size of farms, or we have fewer farms for agriculture. And your population of the nation and the world and the state is increasing. We're gonna need to be able to produce food so we won't have to import it from South America or Central America or China.
Not just that, the decrease in the size and the number of farms, but that the development and more people, that puts a lot of pressure on agriculture, their production systems.
Okay, so new development,
Well, new development, traffic,
putting pressure, okay.
safety concerns.
I think you can just say the family farm, as we once know it, is disappearing.
Yeah.
And most landowners don't even want you sometime now to even have an agricultural zone because they want to be able, when they retire, to do what, or if they decide to stop farming, they want to do what they think is economically feasible for them. And if it means selling it for development, they want to be able to do it. And as it relates to agriculture, to me, that's a negative.
Mm-hmm. What's something that you think about, darn it, if only that wasn't happening? Any kind of thoughts like that? Whatever that might be?
I think natural gas throughout the county is one thing that hurts us sometimes.
Lack of natural gas?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And probably lack of rail systems as well.
Lack of a rail system?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
As it relates to economic development.
And now add sewer to that.
Yeah.
Let's get ready to do something.
Would you add water to it as well?
Well, we're getting there on water.
Right, well, I know, but we don't, we still don't have direct access to water. We gotta
have
buy it
limits.
still. I mean, not having,
Not the new, not Northern Nash. We're
Okay.
gonna have our own wells.
Okay.
We'll have an interconnect so we can back if we
Okay.
need to, but.
I
gotcha.
think,
So just sewer or add water to it?
I think water, we're getting there pretty quickly.
Okay.
The city controls most, I mean, the city has most of that infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's really, yeah, it's really sort of a limitation on the ability to expand that sewer, I guess, based on their rules that aren't in our control, or their policies.
Yeah, I'd say the water would be more of the number two as a positive emerging change over the last
Right.
10 years with Central Nash and now Northern Nash water systems.
Yeah, we've got that on there.
Oh, you do? Okay.
It
Yeah.
was on
Okay.
number two.
What is, okay,
But they're saying it's not, they don't feel like it's number
that it's,
The water part.
three. Right, the water.
we don't need that?
Not on three, I don't.
No, okay. We can fix that.
I see that.
Okay.
Negative.
Let's
Yeah,
go to the
one
next.
more,
Oh.
aging labor force.
Ah,
That's just not here. I mean, everybody's experiencing it.
Well, aging,
Couldn't
that's
agree with you.
one problem, just lack of.
And then, well, I was gonna ask Frank, but.
Yeah. all the time.
okay, so question number 4. In general, do you think Nash County's current development regulations are too strict, not strict enough, or just about right? So, let me page this.
Look at me one day.
You gotta give me a example.
I'd say they got some hopes in them.
Hmm?
They got some things that need fixed.
Okay.
You mean, give me that?
Yeah?
The clustering that's built into these lot sizes.
Okay, so the clustering,
Cluster.
Thought we'd gotten rid of the cluster.
It's only the R.
We did on some zones.
R20.
You have not on R30. We didn't get rid of cluster in R30 zone.
okay.
Well, then you can't do with so much getting rid of if you want to encourage growth.
We can do it.
Well, but
Now, are these two, do you putting all these on one sheet? Because there's gonna be some discussion on this.
yeah, pretty much. Somebody had started, I think it might well be me.
I think they're.
And we're talking about in general,
Right.
you know, are they too, and actually, let's roll it back a little bit. Let's roll it back to what it says here. Are the regulations too strict, not strict enough, or just about right? And then if you say, well, they're too strict, well, why are they too strict? And on down the line. Other than probably just about right, you know. Yeah, no, good to me.
I think they're just about right,
Okay.
in my mind, because to me, they leave enough room for adjustment and interpretation, and by sensible, intelligent people, and then if it works in that area, because you know, you can't have it so tight where you don't have room to maneuver, you know, and then I think half of it is if we didn't have such a qualified, competent staff, then you would be stricter, but we have a staff that really knows what they're doing, so that latitude, I think, really works.
Okay, so enough flexibility.
Yeah, enough flexibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what I was saying in that R30 cluster is just too much flexibility already.
Okay.
That's 42, R40 also.
R40 and R30.
Well, the issue you're running into, if you've got public water, you need to give the developer some latitude, because if anybody in here is the developer, I've been doing this over 30 years, and I've seen what the development costs used to be to what they are now. And that clustering allows some developers to put in a subdivision where they may not be able to, because with the retention ponds and all this other regulation, some of it makes absolutely no sense, some of it does. You can actually put yourself in a position that you can't develop a piece of land because your average lot cost is going to be 25 or 30, and there won't be any more affordable housing built.
Should there be specific reasons why you had to use the clustering factor?
I think you need all the flexibility you can leave in it, and then let our board decide.
So bringing it back to what it says up there, would in this area, would it be, are the regulations too strict, not strict enough, or just about right, the way they are now?
Well, we gonna have different opinions.
How about a show of hands?
I think that.
Well,
Good idea.
okay, let's do that. Are we talking about in general show of hands, or just for the R30 issue?
For the three things.
For the three things? Okay, just
Too
in general.
strict, not strict.
That's a good
enough.
idea. Okay, so if and we're talking in general, maybe not specific at this point.
Okay.
You know, you change it on the fly. Is that satisfactory? Okay. I mean, you're the ones that have to use this information, so. And I was thinking that we might want to do that anyway, was kind of do this more by a vote than anything, but. So all those who think that the current development regulations are too strict, raise your hand.
Yep.
No? Okay. You were distracting his head. Yes, you're counted. Okay. It's like an auction, right? No. Okay, so nobody thinks it's too strict. How about not strict enough? Okay, so how about, so the current development regulations, all those who think it's just about right, raise your hand. Just about. Okay.
Hey, we can dismiss and go home.
It's not well done, folks.
It's not really useful feedback.
Okay.
Bruce, can I ask a clarifying?
Absolutely.
Mr. Davis, when you said leave some flexibility but let the commissioners decide, would we perhaps be more comfortable with the clustering if that was something that required commissioner approval instead of it being something that is a given within a certain zoning district?
The only problem I got with that is the developer needs as much clarity as he can get
And he doesn't
prior to
have
him
it.
buying a piece of land, quite frankly. It backs up way up the chain of when that decision is made to buy something or not buy something. So we need to have it as refined as we can. And of course, I'm a developer, and I'm speaking on behalf of developers rather than on behalf of a commissioner. But on the other hand, the commissioners seem to want the ability to make decisions based on area and districts, is what I've been seeing.
And the situation.
And the situation, yeah.
Look at each case individually.
Look at each case individually, because some pieces of land just need the flexibility of having some clustering involved in it, because you have some good land and you have some bad land on each given tract
Right.
in a lot of Nash County.
Okay. Let's do this real quick. I'm sorry.
Is clustering at all tied to soil type? Not at all, is it?
Soil type can drive you to consider clustering where you may not have otherwise, but it's not a situation where you have to prove something about your bad soil conditions in order to be able to cluster.
Let's do this. So we have some usable feedback, or more usable feedback. Give me some examples of development regulations that are too strict?
I really don't think of any we currently have that are too strict,
Okay.
but that's just me. Apparently, no one else did, 'cause nobody raised their hand, did they?
Okay. And,
I think we have many areas that are R40 that could benefit from being a R30 or R20.
I kind of echo what Kevin is saying. I think possibly just, we got way too much R40. Mr. Ben over there, Fred, he was talking about losing farmland, and we spread them out like that. Just take the county, just spread them all out. Then we just eating up more farmland, and it's never coming back. Whereas if we put them in more dense, and I know that's, spot zoning or whatever, and that's such a negative thing, but if you can have that housing, whether it's cluster or not, but put those people in R20 or R30, everybody don't want to mow an acre of grass, and if the developer's got to sell for it, and he can sell it, and that's what people in Wake County want to live in, then.
Well, as far as the strictness, this isn't a regulation, but I want to make a comment on something. I feel like we've had to push the boundaries of spot zoning in some cases that are in areas that are obvious, like suburban growth area, rural growth areas, real commercial growth areas, because we know that's what it is, we know that's what it's going to be, and yet we've had to tie to some piece of property that's way up the road or down, to try to justify the rezoning of it. So I think maybe identifying and expanding some of these nodes so that some of the commercial growth is a little bit more apt to come, and we don't have to sit here and pretend like it's not spot zone, So.
Well, I just have a question. Has the land development plan been amended when there's water system expansion or that kind of thing that would affect the area?
We recently did something there, Adam. Tell us what we did exactly.
When we look at the maps, you'll see that there are 3 water utility districts that have been set up throughout the county. Only 2 of them actually have water lines. But what we did is, within those districts, we converted any area that was rural growth, meaning predisposed for larger lot sizes, less dense development, to suburban growth, to open the door for rezoning to R30 or R20 where you have a water line coming in.
Which I think was a very smart move that was brought to us to do that. Because number one, we got a utility system, water system that's very hard to make the numbers work without customers. And we need to do all we can to support our utility system. But at the same time, naturally, that's where you can allow smaller lots because you got one of the utilities available, which is water. And if we could push that envelope any more than what we've done, we may not need to. We just have recently done it in the last 3 or 4 months, and so we hadn't had a trial period on it yet.
I feel like we've seen as a planning board, and we've seen those.
Yeah, you
a couple times.
Came to us, yeah.
Right.
Maybe where the strictness comes in, it is in that there aren't enough areas or district definitions. So we use rural and suburban at the time that we did 10 years ago. That was a pretty elaborate system to put up. But certainly, so increasing the number of options in terms of those areas or categories. And that way you can deal with density versus more dense versus less dense within some of those.
I think that sounds really good. Allow more flexibility.
I agree with that. What would be another name for, what would be something else you could put in
We
there?
made up those 2, so we make up a few more.
Understand?
That's when they start looking around on the internet.
That's right.
Well, but really, if you had several more categories in there, I think it would help guide us a lot better.
I agree with that. I think the difficulty comes is when you figure out those three categories, then you turn to the map.
Yep.
And you have to decide who the winners are gonna be and who, you know, that's the difficult part.
It'll be by commissioner district.
Gotcha.
Come on,
Yeah,
Dave.
I think having more options other than, you know, right now, when we're talking about residential, you have two broad categories.
I know.
Suburban or rural.
Mhm.
And there need to be some gradients in that. And that's gonna be harder to pick out on the map, but I think it's gonna be a more useful tool if it has those gradients in it.
Right.
Why do there need to be more gradients? Just help me understand kind of what y'all trying to achieve.
Well, because if
But-
you're, maybe if you're rural, or what I was thinking was, maybe if you're rural, and it could work on the commercial side as well.
Yeah.
If you're rural, but you're close to, maybe you in a overall rural district, but you're in the water system now,
Mhm.
or you're next to near a commercial area, or on a major
major
highway
roadway.
or something like that, or you're closer to Rocky Mountain or something like that, there may be something that you want to try to encourage smaller lots or more density or a different kind of configuration or something, whereas you might not in something that's in Avonton.
Yeah, okay.
It would give you some more specific guidance when somebody proposes a development in a particular area, other than just being two broad categories, you're either rural or you're suburban.
Probably make it easier on developers when they were looking
It would.
at property.
Yeah.
I think Beth Eden would be a good example of that. If you had a Beth Eden sitting out in the county, I think it would be very attractive, particularly with the population aging, looking to downsize. I think it'd be very attractive. I'm talking to all the contractors in here.
The thing that always concerned me the most, particularly with the ordinance that we've got now, I think we've all learned that zoning is much more complex than it used to be. The laws about zoning are a lot more strict than what they used to be. A landowner has ability to, and you see this more and more often, if there's something in our UDO and the planning board and most of the time would be the commissioners go against that, we're in a pretty liable situation if indeed the ordinance did not restrict it and we just arbitrarily decided we didn't want something and it's allowed in UDO. That time when we get sued, that time we're most likely gonna lose that battle, because I see it happening in many areas. It's happening in Jordan County north of us fairly recently. And that's why we need to get our UDO structured so it really is in blend with what these two boards want it to be, so we're not so vulnerable. Did I say that right, Adam?
I think so.
Or Vince?
So, did that kind of cover the whole thing that we're talking about? Or are we not strict enough in some areas? It seems like this almost covers it a bit. I mean, all of them, maybe, I don't know, I'm just.
I have a question. I don't know if Nash County uses this tool, but sometimes where you have different zones along a particular corridor of development, it's helpful to have a general corridor setback instead of the zone setback applying, so that as time goes on and you have to acquire, maybe DOT has to acquire additional properties, it can do so without having to impact the residents or the business.
It's tough to have that in a rural setting. I know what you're saying, and if it's a lot better in a municipality where you got, like Rocky Mount has several thoroughfare plans, they've actually got setbacks on for future widening. But the overall picture for a countywide road system is much more fuzzy than what it is for municipality.
But we'll throw it up there because somebody might be able to figure out how to do it.
Absolutely, sure. It's a good point.
Okay, so Adam, am I thinking that this kind of covers this particular question?
I think so.
Okay, just want to double check.
Well, it needs to be, in my opinion, been taking a look at Wake County, how it's becoming so saturated within that one county. There's over 1 million people. And it's putting a lot of pressure for resources. And so, in my opinion, I think we need to, I think we're just right, that we need to look at the situations and do a little bit more planning, make sure that we don't run into situations like they have there in Wake County, where they're gaining over 1,000 people a month. And it's putting the pressure on the school, building new schools, and they just building, and still don't have enough.
Basically, make sure we don't
Right,
overgrow.
and then you gotta look at water, septic tanks, wells.
I think that's
It's
coming
to
up
the place
somewhere.
now that they are becoming contaminated because we have so many toxic chemicals and waste that's seeping into the aquifers in the earth. I feel like eventually we're gonna get to the point where we're gonna need to get all our water from streams where it can be treated, because not a whole lot of treating is going on with whales. Some central whales that's providing for a cluster of houses that may be going on, but individuals not doing that much. So we need to look at the situation, and I would say move slowly as we want to change things. I think we're just right as we are now.
Yeah, and I wrote down, make sure the county doesn't overgrow and beware of septic, et cetera. Okay, great. Nope, is that the right one? Yeah. Yes. What are some development goals that you think Nash County will face over the next 10 years or so?
Pursue? Should pursue or face?
I think pursue is a better word.
Okay.
This opinion probably, some in here will like it, some won't. But we're one of, I think, 6 counties that borders Wake County. And you look at all the other counties, Johnson, Wilson, Franklin, Orange, and Granville. And it could be argued that we've seen the least amount of growth, and all the others have. And I think that we need to set up our zoning that encourages the urban sprawl. As the commissioner was just speaking about, Wake County's gaining more people than they can hold, and they've got to go somewhere. And if we do a good job of our planning, we can get some of those people, and it will be a domino effect, because more people in the county means larger tax base. Larger tax base means more taxes, that builds better schools and attracts industry. Kind of the old saying, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Right. Now, did you say set up zoning to encourage urban sprawl?
To encourage, to make it encouraging for developers, like what we were talking about on the zoning. Have areas in the county that are attractive to developers.
And bring them into that one.
To bring them in here, be open to it.
Question, are you suggesting our current policy then is too strict in certain areas that?
What I had brought up before is the R40s and things like that. You can't go out there, a developer isn't gonna buy 100 acres and put 100 houses and make money.
But, we have seen clearly since I've been here 6 years that, y'all might have denied some zoning changes from R40 to R30, R20, but I'm not aware of.
We have.
You
There's
have?
a developer that's came before us, was it DR? Horton, was it DR? I think they were looking at doing a 300 acre out in Bailey Spring Hope, and the zoning came up. It's been up they came before us 2 times on it. Yes, we have had, because what you've got.
What happened in that case? Because generally y'all are very friendly to developers.
And Adam will correct me, I'm sure, on this, but I believe the area was like an R40 and they wanted to drop to like an R15. And it was kind of decided that was a bridge too far to go from that level to that small of a level. And I'm not necessarily, I think some discussion needs to be made. Is it a bridge too far or not? Or do we need to go into a discussion of having another subset in different areas?
That developer wasn't interested in going to 30 or 20. It was 15 or nothing.
Well, he came back to us twice.
I think he wanted to go from 30 to 20. No, from 40 to 20.
40 to 20.
And 30 was the compromise in the middle.
And so they've
But
got
he
to
also
make,
planned on using the cluster.
and so if you've got Clayton sitting over there that'll let you build 3,000 square foot house on an R15, and you got Nash County over here that's gonna make you have a 30,000 square foot lot to build 3,000 square, guess where he can make the money at, and guess who's building?
Good point.
And we ain't got to guess. Just get in your car right over there and look at Flowers Crossing.
Did he have sewage
Plantation.
with that property, with sewage?
No,
assessment
that
on
would
it?
have been septic system.
Yeah. I don't think he could have gotten anything denser than R30, maybe R20 without, and have, well, it's good soil, so.
It depends on the soil.
So it's good soil, yeah, so, anyway.
So to accomplish what you're suggesting, how would I say that in like a semi-quick sentence?
I think the goal should be that we should embrace the fact that we are a bedroom county of Wake and be attractive to developers.
Agree.
Okay, so become attractive to developers.
I wonder if another way to say it is we have an opportunity to be proactive, to think about how we want to manage growth. Well, it seems like growth is going to come. Just a question, are we going to try to be in front of it, or are we going to react to it?
That's what
I think that's Will said.
we're reacting.
We'll react in one application at a time.
So opportunity to manage growth.
Another thing we need to do is be purposeful that our mix of development supports our tax base or develops an even better tax base. You don't want to be just a residential.
So that developer left, he went away.
No, well, he's came to it again, he's came to, I believe we've had it twice, that he's came back, and I don't think he's left for good. D.R. Horton builds 5,000 houses a year.
Yeah.
I'm saying that they're gonna build a house, and they can either build it in Nash County, or they can build it in Johnson County. Franklin County's filling up.
It is.
And Johnson County's filling up. Wilson County is starting to have them. So he's going to go somewhere, and that overflow of people is going to live somewhere. And and they're eventually going to get to Nash County. The question is it going to be at the tail end of this economic cycle, or are we going to get on the forefront of it?
I tell you, as a banker, I've seen it already, because I've dealt a lot with the dealers out of Raleigh. Either looking at Wilson County or they're looking at Nash County. At this point in time, Wilson County is a more attractive place for them to set up shop. And some of it's proximity, and it's a little quicker. But as far as the southern end of Nash County, we're right there from a geographic location. And I think, I'm kind of curious why they're doing that, why they feel like Wilson's a more attractive place. But that's just my sense of it, is that they have the upper hand at this point in time.
I think we've all, I've been here 6 years again. And when I got here, I like everybody for the last 25, 30 years, they've said Spring Hope and Middlesex, that's just waiting to explode, but it hadn't.
It's R4.
It's R4.
There's lack of infrastructure on that side of the county. I mean, when you're talking about these subdivisions looking for lots, we run up against a lot in the Bailey area, around Middlesex, where they're trying to spill over from Zebulon, and they just don't have the infrastructure to support it. I mean, if you're looking at Spring Hope, it doesn't go out.
Wilson County has water, I guess, too.
Yeah, they have no problem supporting those new developments that are butting right up against Nash, Johnston.
Yeah.
So is the goal to pursue infrastructure?
See,
new
that's
infrastructure
one of the
opportunities?
issues that Nash County has. We're starting to move forward with water. But a lot of these poor counties all around us had water all over their counties many years. Warren County is one of the poorest in the state. They got water everywhere. And thank God the county commissioners decided to put it here, because that is a defining factor for growth, is having that water system. And
We
we're
won't
trying
be-
to play catch up
30
from being
years
probably
behind,
10 years behind where we should be with the water,
25 years.
or 25.
And natural gas is, you're not gonna get a plant if you don't have natural gas. I'm talking big manufacturing plants.
These
So-
tract builders, as he's describing, they're down now where they analyze the front setback. They wanna know how little they can get that because of they're gonna concrete every driveway. They wanna know what a concrete driveway costs them. If you got a 50-foot setback, they're not gonna go there. So that's why that's another reason they want the zone down as low as they can get it, because the setback comes down with it. Therefore, the length of that driveway comes down with it. That's, they run models of everything they do. They know that 300 development, housing, project, that they know what driveways are gonna cost them. They know how many 2x4s they're gonna buy before they start. They just got it down to a science like you wouldn't believe.
So we're talking about goals.
Right.
So a goal is always up here, and if we get to here, we're better off than.
Well, we got a more broad-based opportunity we got to solve first. We got to decide, I can just listen to the planning board and pretty much tell where they are. I don't know where our board of commissioners are as far as welcoming the growth of Wake County. That's something our board's got to work on. And we've got to find that point where we all can buy into it. That
Well, see,
we're not there
I
now.
think you're on number 6, I think
Well,
that's gonna
okay.
be the challenge.
Okay, right, right, yeah,
I think
okay. I had
I
to
think
look that far
Chairman
back.
Davis has hit right on it as you've gone into number 6, is that's gonna be the challenge, is coming to a consensus of who does Nash County want to be and attract.
Right.
Do we want a Headingham or whatever that place is called, where you have the small lots, right, the houses, right, the clustering?
Well,
Flowers Plantation is a great example.
Flowers Plantation is the best probably example, but the reality
Well planned.
is you have to accept the fact, do you want
It is.
a subdivision like that? And then you have to ask this question here. Do you want good schools and do you want industry and business? Because you don't have industry and business if you don't have population to support it. You don't have good schools, you don't have infrastructure if you don't have growth to bring you taxes. So people say they don't want it, but every week, USA Today, US World News, all that rates Raleigh is in the top 5 best places to live and best place for business. So if you do, and you have to accept that comes at a price, and that price is population.
And that's what we're doing tonight, really, is the start of that, if I may interject,
Well,
is to be able to figure out where you want that to happen or not happen.
The southern end of the county would be a great place for a Flowers Plantation, because when Flowers Plantation came in, they put the shops, you can go in there and live and walk to everything that you physically need. But we've got great schools in the southern end of this county. Southern Nash High and Middle are good schools. And with the crap they got going on in Wake County with their schools, you could have a kid that may go to 5 different schools in 5 different years because of the population explosion. If we could get them here to Nash County, going back and forth with that kind of situation to those schools, they put them in middle school, go right to high school, stay right there in those 2 schools. And it's a great selling point for southern Nash County, but you gotta have the stuff in place when it comes, like the Field of Dreams. You gotta put it in place before they come.
Yeah. So
I'd like to add one thing, continued expansion of high-speed internet.
We're on 6 now.
I don't know where we are.
We're on 5.
5 still.
Okay. Sounds like we need to move over to 6.
I have a question before you go any further. I've heard discussion about Bailey and Middlesex area. The planning board, do you have jurisdiction over zoning in the municipalities and the extraterritorial that the municipalities have?
No.
So that's where maybe we need to start working with and communicating with them on these issues that we are discussing now. Because the municipalities have planning boards within their system, and they also have extraterritorial jurisdiction. So they come into play.
They come into play a little bit, Mr. Bellfield, but if you look at that map up there, you see it's a small percentage.
Well, they still
You got a
come
lot
into
more
play,
than
because now I understand there are some developments down there in the Bailey area that the Bailey town is providing water. I don't know whether sewage there or not, but they provide water.
Yeah.
They cannot.
Moratorium.
They still on a moratorium, so it's
A little bit of a strain.
Yeah, but
So that's why, that's where you guys.
well, still they have some say so, and we need to take a look
Yeah.
at that also, and work with
They're affected
them.
greatly by all this, you know, those towns, you know, it just stresses their infrastructure, and there also need to be partners because they're in a lot of ways providing the amenities to the people that live around those towns, and how can they partner with some of that growth to, you know, make it the most, you know, planned, for lack of a better word, growth we could provide.
You'll see that all these small towns rely very heavily on Nash County's planning department to do what they do each time. I mean, you hear from them all the time, I know that. In my area, I know, first thing they do is go to you.
Okay.
I've heard some comments from some people down in the Bailey Middlesex area who said that the town prevented them from doing certain things because of the way they had it zoned. And especially dealing with mobile homes.
Bailey can't do
Mobile
anything.
home,
Bailey can't do
Yeah.
anything, Mr. Belford. They
Yes,
can't add a house
Okay.
because of the sewage moratorium.
We're gonna move on a little bit now. We got a lot to cover. And I wanted to get out of here before 8:30, but I don't know if we're gonna do that.
Number 6.
So we're on number 6 now. What are the biggest development challenges you think Nash County will face over the next 10 years or so?
I think one of those is being able to find the balance of development versus preserving farmland and open areas. You know, somebody mentioned too much R40 before. That's why we do have so many open areas now, is that we don't have a lot of dense housing areas in the rural part of the county.
And the reason for that is we don't have the water and sewage. If you had water and sewage, you could solve all these problems. Water and sewage.
Where can we do
If you gonna have a 15,000 square foot lot, you're not gonna have water and sewage in most places.
That's right.
I think another challenge would be funding.
Yeah.
Funding.
But he didn't do the one in Johnson.
You're the only county that has a problem with that.
That's a new one, you never
It's
seen.
a new one, I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
I'm teasing, I'm teasing. Oh, it
It's a
is.
coordinated effort between the municipalities and the county. Yeah, that's a challenge.
What was that?
A coordinated effort between Nash County and Spring Hope and Bailey and Middlesex.
Are you talking about cooperation between the municipalities themselves or municipalities and the
In the county, yes.
Okay.
I mean, there's probably some progress we can make if we work together.
Yeah.
But we don't have any intention of doing that. It's-
Well, I think we've made a lot of headway with Middlesex and Bailey in working together over the last 10 years. Have we got a long way to go yet?
Yeah.
But I think we've come a long way.
Sometimes this one takes care of this one.
Right. Yeah.
Somehow or another, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anything else? What are the biggest, some other development challenges?
I think one of the biggest challenges, and this is true for any place, is being in a position to be proactive instead of reactive. Because when you're always reactive, you're always behind. And that's what Wake County's facing now that's different than Charlotte. Charlotte put the infrastructure in before the growth got there and put some of the roads in. Wake County was not ready for it, and they've been reacting to it ever since the growth took place in '86. And they're not going to catch up.
Well, the same thing said for the other, you know, schools and all the other, all the other infrastructure you have to have. And, you know, it wouldn't take but a couple large developments in the south end of the county to tax Bailey Elementary, you know,
It's
Southern
already
Nash.
full now.
Right,
You know, the
so,
school's already capacity.
right, so we don't have a ton of, we don't have a ton of schools in southern end of the county. And that's where the growth would come.
I think the challenge might be the availability of affordable housing.
That's all we got to do.
It is nice.
I think we do a very poor job of PRing ourselves, public relations as it relates to Nash County wants to be a bedroom community for Wake County. We just don't make that known, we don't know.
Okay.
We have a PR problem as it relates to pro-growth.
And I know this could be touchy, but you made a comment about Southern Nash and Nash Middle School, Southern Nash Middle School. When you read the newspaper in Raleigh about Nash County, you read we have a very low performing school system. They don't take out those schools from the overall mix. And that might be something we could better, I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you say this school, these schools down here are really good.
Are they really good down there?
Yes.
Southern Nash.
Performance-wise, they're really good.
Well, you got seven failing schools in the system, and 5 of them are located in the municipality of Rocky Mountain. So it's got to be some of the rest of them are doing pretty good.
Yeah.
The best elementary school we've got in the county is the C at Cookman.
Yeah, there's no.
That ain't nothing to be proud
So,
of.
No.
PR problem.
Yeah, we got a ways to go throughout the county. You're right. You're right. You're right.
So PR problem as it relates to pro-growth probably covers all of those
Yeah.
kinds of things. That's a pretty broad thing. You can fill in the gaps.
My comment was based on PR period.
Right.
I think we're gonna have to fight the urge, if we do decide to be really pro-growth, to just let the spigot, open the spigot entirely, and just let anything come without any kind of design or development standard. So to create some kind of design and aesthetic development standard that could create some really kind of intentional growth without it just looking like they're throwing paint on a wall.
Kind of limited in some of that, but.
Yeah.
I would say, look at our neighbors.
Which one? Johnson County?
Johnson
Yeah, I
County.
agree totally.
Franklin County.
That's what I'm talking about. I don't want to
And
look like
look at the
Johnson
best practices.
So you
Not
said
all,
design
everything they're doing is great.
standards
Well, you know,
No, not everything.
I feel like I feel like we gotta be a little tighter than Johnson County's been.
So design standards to,
Just maintain some consistency in
Okay.
development
Accountability
and have some kind of general aesthetic quality that promotes continued growth.
We are severely limited in our ability to act in that way by the state legislature. There are, we can't impose a lot of design requirements on the building of houses because we're limited by.
We
by how
can't,
state
or any
law.
municipality can.
nobody
And
can.
anybody in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Nobody can in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Okay.
They keep tightening that up every
That's a
session.
legislative.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can control
Commercial.
lot design,
Yeah.
but when it gets to the particulars of the home construction,
Those things generally come, I think, through HOAs
They're
rather than
HOAs.
through zoning regulations.
Yeah.
So when you get a development that's big enough to get that HOA or that kind of structure,
Yeah,
that's where you get architectural
I gotcha.
requirements.
Yeah.
And I'd say
The
along,
strongest lobbyists in the state are the homeowners, the home builders.
and the realtors, yeah. They work together. Along the PR thing, relating it to the federal opportunity zones, perhaps we could develop in the southern western part of the county, a county opportunity zone, not call it an opportunity zone,
Why not?
and publicize that
I think we would.
Okay.
as a special area of the county given the fact that it borders
I mean, for commercial
Zebulon.
development or residential development or all the
all
above?
development.
All the above.
All development.
Are you-
Get
that's-
residential, commercial gonna come with it.
Yeah.
Push along
I
what we,
love that idea.
what we've always thought, why isn't it developing fast enough? Let's do something, make it a special zone, and I'm talking a large area. And publicize that in business MC and things like that.
Yeah, if you can get all your commissioners to vote on that, absolutely.
So kind of create a
As
development
long as it's not in
zone.
his district.
Well, that's fine if it's in my district. That's the problem I see is,
Not to have an opportunity zone
I don't
necessarily.
getting that much land by creating the opportunity zone, you're not telling them they have to do something.
Right.
But if they want
Yeah.
to sell to a developer who's interested,
Right.
we position them.
Yeah.
I mean, they can hold that property and not develop it.
We need to maybe make sure that an area like that did have like water, sewer, natural gas.
Well, the
Whatever you
problem
try to
is
track.
that the western part of the county that's closest to where the development we see coming from the west has to cross the area that has no public utilities.
Yeah,
You know, that's a discrepancy that we have.
that would be part of the plan to develop that opportunity.
We're kind of talking about two different things with natural gas. I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
about commercial
Yeah.
manufacturing
Well, really, the
facilities
holdback there-
versus
yeah.
residential. That's two.
The real holdback is sewer.
Yep.
I mean, we can handle the water. You don't, the gas, it's like you say, it's more for
Industrial.
Well, how do we fix the sewer piece? I mean, where you got to install help me understand, like a treatment, like a new whole treatment plan, or like, how does that work?
Well,
There's options.
we've talked,
There are options, yeah.
yeah, there are options.
Yeah. Let's leave that for another meeting.
Yeah.
That's a big topic. So
Well, I'm
it's a
just
good one.
curious.
It's good.
It's
Write
just
that
really
down and
expensive to
then,
bring it from Zebulon
but that would be tough.
I don't know if this is a development challenge, but we have talked about this before, and it might be better than it has in the past, but retaining our young adults who go off to college and don't come back here.
Right, we're losing all of our talent to somebody else.
We're not doing as bad as a lot of counties. I can tell you that, because we are close enough to Wake County and cultural things like that, recreation. There are counties in the eastern part of this state that 9 out of 10 kids leave and never
Yeah.
come back.
Well, I think that's our unique thing, is that we're about probably the farthest east county that's going to really get to take advantage of the Wake County growth. They're not going to get, Edgecombe could get some of it, but past that, they're not going to go that far.
In fact, we've improved on that. We're
agree.
headed in the upward way. Go down to the Bill Saturday night, stay 3 hours of the bees that was hanging out down there. It ain't none of bees, I tell you that.
I was at the Carolina Duke game.
I understand. I give my tickets away.
This may actually be part of Sue's first one, but trying to find the balance between growth and open areas. But just to kind of pinpoint it, if we can try to develop or find ways to increase density more pinpointed than the sort of countywide zoning approach, and that may help us target things. That may be more of a tool than a goal, but anyway, if we can figure out how to try to pinpoint where density makes sense and
I was thinking
where
the
it
same thing,
doesn't.
Nancy, like in what he was saying about the flexibility in the R20 on that western and southern side. If we want to retain young people because we want them in Nash County because it's cheaper for them to own a house in Nash County, then they don't want an acre. I mean, they don't.
You gotta have that first time buyer on.
They want to be able to afford it, and that may not mean an acre of land to maintain. So having those developments like the Beth Edens or the Flowers Plantation along a corridor of 264, 64, but then we hit that gap where we have nothing, where we have no water, we have no sewer.
200,000 gets you a tent in Raleigh. 200,000 in Nash County, you're living large.
It's a nice tent, but still. Okay, we're gonna move on. So if you have any other thoughts on, what did we just talk about? Development challenges, write them down and write number 6 on the card or piece of paper, and then just give them to Adam at the end of the night and we can go from there. But that way we can kind of continue to move along. And I'm gonna get another pad. Should have had these already up, but I didn't think I'd go through them all. Okay. See if I can stick that right there. There we go. Okay. So our next one is specific land development topics. And we have a bunch of these, hopefully. So if we can try to stay really limited in our focus and comments, we're not going to be able to fix anything tonight. So that's the first thing. But just kind of make sure we're in the right spots here. So our first one is Nash County's public water system. Nash County has made significant progress in extending public water lines into rural areas outside local municipalities. In these areas, what is more important? Allowing smaller minimum residential lot sizes to encourage more dense development, or maintaining larger minimum residential lot sizes to preserve the cultural or the current rural character of the area.
Hey,
Depends on who you're asking.
Well, we're asking you guys right now.
Asking a developer,
Yeah.
different answer.
Yeah.
Let me just say something. I don't think either preserves the rural character of the R40. If someone built an R40, that's still density relative to rural, to someone that's used to a rural setting. So, lots. I don't care what the lot size is. It's still, you're building homes out there. It's not rural anymore.
Okay.
So I'd say A, so that we get the most bang for the buck, and we get more taxpayers paying into the system, so we can expand services.
and we preserve more farmland.
Exactly. That's right. If you can get it dense in a smaller area, the less likely sprawl will occur.
If you want to keep the rural nature of it, allow them to have chickens and cows on their lots.
To move from Wake County, that's a requirement. Yeah, those are the hippies out there.
The good news is we can't stop that, because that's modified agriculture.
I think the man said stay focused, didn't he?
How do you want to do this one? You want to just kind of
Well, why don't we,
General
since we have two
consensus?
general options, why don't we do a show of hands and then we can discuss.
Okay.
Just that.
Okay, yeah.
Don't we, can I ask a
It's
question?
not either or.
If you say A, the problem here is water and sewage. The problem's water and sewage, if you want smaller lot sizes and you got some of these lots that you can't put sewage on,
What-
15, 20,000 square foot lot.
That's why it's not either or. There's some cases where you want A and some cases where you might want B.
We're not gonna fix anything.
Right.
We're talking about what we want.
And what's more important, I guess, is there's going to be a A or a B or a B or an A. And then we can have a little bit of discussion
All
on
of the
that.
above.
So, show of hands, what's more important? Allowing smaller minimum residential lot sizes to encourage more dense development. All those like that one. Okay. I'm not going to count numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay. So there's 17 on A. And how about maintaining, or is this one more important? Maintaining larger minimum residential lot sizes to preserve the current rural character of the area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't,
Okay.
I got to vote for B because
Okay.
if you put water and sewage into A,
Mhm.
then I'm fine with it.
Okay. So
How many did you get on B?
I think it was about, raise your hand again on B if you wouldn't mind. 1, 2, 3. Is that, is your hand raised?
No.
Okay. Remember, we're in an auction situation.
Sorry.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Washington bankers, they vote twice.
I don't like the
Okay,
mutually
well, we'll talk about that in just a minute.
choice.
Okay, so I had about
We didn't want to be wrong.
6 or 7. So, okay, so now, is Adam, so let's talk about that a little bit. I'm hearing we need both.
I agree you need both, but to
Okay.
Dan's point, you talk about the water and sewer, we've got other regulations, that's not related to zoning. We got other regulations that control that. If you got a 20,000 square foot lot and it won't support a well and a septic tank, you can't build on that. Health department takes care of that. We don't have to worry about that. It is, he left,
I think
okay?
what it does is it tells the developer that you can do.
He's gotta do
things that you
his
can
homework
do,
before he buys
but
that
he
to
has
know whether it's gonna do
he
it.
has
Yeah, I
to
mean,
know
but we do that. We go in and we analyze that soil and we know whether it will or not. There's another thing that controls that. Zoning doesn't have to control it. If we set up that area, a broad area that would allow 20,000 square foot lots, and Dan, you and I discussed this a lot. We got many of them in the county that have a well and septic tank on 20,000 square feet. You said you were raised on one, I said I was raised on
The
one.
septic tank line is on somebody else's lot right now.
Well, I was raised on one, the septic tank line was on the lot I was raised on, but that's another point. But the point I'm trying to make is, this group doesn't control that, health department controls that.
Okay, but I see but if, there ain't no need to have smaller lot sizes if they won't perk.
But we're not gonna know that. The health department side.
But the thing is, both answers are correct depending on the circumstances that you're dealing with the piece of land.
That's correct.
I think the question more is around resource allocation. Is the county gonna be, does it wanna direct resources to allowing denser developments in those rural areas by way of treatment plants and that kind of thing?
That's the proactive part.
Right,
We can't
exactly.
do
I mean,
nothing
I think
and
that's
do
the,
nothing.
that's the question. You know what I
You
mean?
won't-
And if
you
you answer
won't-
A, then you have to be willing to commit resources to
do
right, to guiding more dense development.
We are committed to provide resources for water. The numbers for sewer won't ever work.
Ever work?
Ever, will not ever work.
It'd be
In-
$1 billion.
I mean, you can't do rural development with
The whole county.
sewer.
Okay, all right.
There's not a county that I know of that has sewer all over it. Now, Edgecombe's getting a ton of grants and put quite a bit in, but
Right.
Nash does not qualify for those grants.
I got you.
We got too high, fortunately, average household income.
Right.
And of course, when you get to the coast sometimes, you have to go that
Yeah.
route. But I mean, Outer Banks, for instance, it's on the public sewer system on the Outer Banks.
Mhm.
It's all septic tanks.
Really?
Everything on that whole Outer Banks, with all that development, there is no sewer system.
And same thing in Middlesex and Bailey, like around there, like
failed systems.
everyone in Middlesex and Bailey are on
Yep.
septic?
And not in the town.
Oh, not
But in
in
the
the towns.
country, yeah, they're on septic tanks.
Okay, but no, I'm talking about in the towns. I mean, you
In the
couldn't
town,
tie
well, they
in or
got
whatever.
They don't have any capacity left.
They're full.
You can't build another house in Bailey. You can't get a permit for
Wow.
it, unless the health department's willing to give them a septic tank.
Right.
Permit.
Right.
I really think talking about public water system is what we should be talking about.
Exactly.
There are counties east of here that are among the poorest in the United States, that every street in those counties have public water.
Yeah.
Every
And
country road's got
every
public water.
country
Somewhere
road.
we missed that boat years ago.
And I'll use an example, Bertie. There's not a road in Bertie County that doesn't have public water.
Yeah.
They got 4 water systems so they could get 4 bites of the federal apple,
Right.
but we didn't do that for some reason
Yeah.
20 years ago,
Yeah.
25 years ago, 30 years ago.
Well, I must say this, a large
And we gotta
portion-
do it now. We gotta
Okay.
play catch up.
A large
And
portion.
Jeffrey, this is gonna be the last word, so do it quick.
Large portion of eastern Wake County is developed without public water. I mean, a lot of people are on well in eastern Wake County.
That's true.
Now they have radon.
Right. So, we don't have radon, do we?
Yes.
We
We
do.
do have, we do,
We
okay.
do.
All right.
Yes.
Add that to the challenge, to challenges.
Which one? Radon?
Nuclear waste.
That's
The
why
west- the west-
the water
Okay.
system at Bailey because arsenic in the
Well, let's talk water system then.
So this one might be a little easier. This is about solar farms. So maybe not, I don't know. Nash County first adopted solar farm regulations in 2011. Around 30 projects have been approved, including some very large acreage projects. Are the current solar farm regulations working well, or should they be changed? Or B, if they should be changed, in what ways? So let's start with A. Are the current solar farm regulations working well, or should they
Yes.
be changed?
I think you're doing good.
Generally working well, okay.
Do we know how much, Adam, do you know how much acreage we're talking about? This third project?
Not off the top of my head, you know, we've got one that's approaching 1,000 acres, you know, that big one we just approved, but it is by far the anomaly so far.
So would you say if we compare acreage, for solar farms versus acreage for residential development, what would that comparison look like? If we're concerned about losing agricultural acreage, which one is eating up more acreage?
I would say, and I haven't run the numbers, but my instinct says we've covered more land in solar panels in the last 5 years than we've covered in residential dwellings.
I know we have a word.
I would tell you this,
Kind of the new storage facility. Okay, so.
Y'all listen to this number. Very recently, I read that in North Carolina, only 2.5% of farmland has been developed into solar farms. 2.5%. Very small number, if you look at it statewide. And I'm sure Nash County would be higher than that.
Well, my question was, if we're concerned about development patterns and losing agricultural acreage, but we're losing much more solar farms than we want rooftops, which do we want?
Both.
From a county tax base, we're, I know you don't want to hear this, but we're better off with solar farms on a piece of property than farmland.
Yeah.
We get more taxes even with the 80% discount or tax credit.
Solar farms in Nash County, I did a calculation about a year ago, and versus in the farms program, or whatever that word is. Land use program versus a solar farm, the tax increases 22 times.
How much?
22 times, even at 20%.
Wow.
Solar panels don't
Allowing
need public
solar
water.
farms allows a farmer who may be on the margin of losing their farm.
Yes.
To have investment in his farmland or her farmland that allows them to retain it for another generation
My
or
whole
two. And hopefully
thing on
things
solar
will change.
farms is, it's back to the property owner to be able to do what he wants to do with his own land. If that's the choice they make, as long as they're not hurting anything else. And a solar farm doesn't hurt much other than a little bit of appearance.
And it doesn't inherently change the land in a way that it can't be farmed in the future.
Well, it doesn't.
After that lease period is over.
So if the,
Shouldn't they be able to do that if they want to?
Yeah, this is me, and I had nothing I read, but I classified the solar farms in the area of agriculture because it's taking up agricultural land.
I think it's.
And it's a source of energy.
Right. Cleaner
And
source.
farms are a source of energy too.
To me, it's a matter of execution. Are they doing what they are required to do insofar as the putting in the buffers and maintaining the buffers so that it doesn't have like an adverse effect for the people around it or just growth in general? And I don't know that we've had enough that have been completed to really, totally have an opinion on that. Would you say, Adam, that we've had?
I think we could do some inventory of what we have and decide if our current, right now, we have some solar developers that are proposing screening over and above what our mandatory requirements are.
Yeah.
Because they have the money to do it, and it sweetens the deal for us to approve it.
Yeah.
But do we need to up our screening requirements to match that? Right now, we don't have any specific solar farm screening requirements. They're just triggered the same commercial or industrial development, which is if you're within 100 feet of a residentially used or zoned property, you have to do a vegetative buffer.
If I had to do it all over again, I would suggest that the county require like a 0.5% or 1%.
Absolutely.
Kind of.
We need some closure requirements.
Right,
For
fund.
10 or 20 years from now.
Right, fund that we could put the
When
money
they
in.
become obsolete and
Right. That
we
way.
only require the owner of the land to clean them up. And
Exactly.
These LLCs are gonna run.
Because-
Gonna run away as fast as they can.
On the front end, they would have paid it in a heartbeat.
I disagree with that.
Well, I'm talking
That's
20 years
another
from now
day.
when we don't know.
Why do you
The
disagree with that?
technology's changed.
Aren't there some other counties that require?
Most of them. Most of them.
That probably won't be around in 20 years.
I've been arguing that with
You probably been sitting in that chair though.
I will not.
There's enough copper wire in that ground that you ain't gonna have no problem. There's enough copper wire in that ground that you ain't gonna have no
Okay,
problem.
let's
bring it back home here. It's all good discussion, but we do have a time limit tonight and a lot to go with. So, okay, so I did put down up here closure requirements for cleanup for end of life. Basically, project end of life.
If need be.
And
you know.
I've also put up screening
But
requirements.
that's, yeah, right.
I got a little different take on the screening requirements, Jeff, since I'm not in it anymore. No, but, and that is, it's very difficult, and it may not be the case since the solar farms now are getting so much bigger and they're more corporate and they have the resources to do the buffers properly. But when we got started and the farms were smaller, they would go out there and plant a tree, and you can't keep a tree alive out there in the summer in North Carolina with no people out there on the site. Nobody's watering it, nobody's doing anything, and all the buffers die. Very unusual for us to have solar farms, I think, out in the field that probably have lush buffers like we envisioned them, because at the time that they're planning, and the other thing is there are so many contractors involved in that transaction between the time that we approve it and they start construction and by the time, 3 years later or something like that, it's very difficult to enforce that at the initial stage. Those buffers, keeping them maintained, and so
enforcement,
keeping them
yeah.
alive.
So enforcement is
So that's part of looking at the screening requirements, is what's reasonable and what's enforceable, really. 'Cause
It's difficult with our current staffing level and the amount of land area we have in Nash County to become the tree police. I mean, it's not, it's not.
And it's difficult to
something
figure
that
out even who you have to call, because by the time you call them, the
Right.
people that you dealt with for the permitting was 3 companies ago.
Right.
Well, if we can't enforce it, then there's no point in improving it.
It's part of looking at
I
those
think that was the
requirements.
point.
That was my point.
Well, I
yeah.
think we can enforce it. If we need to enforce it, if we got it on the books, we need to enforce it.
We're making a commitment to the citizens of the county, particularly ones that live around those
Yeah.
farms, that we're gonna do that.
But the key is, are those citizens complaining about what's around them?
Right, clearly they are.
That's the only way you're gonna be able to
Yeah.
enforce
Yeah.
anything, is when somebody comes in and
We
complains about
spend
it.
Yeah.
too much
That's the
time fixing
enforcement.
problems,
Right.
not problems.
Okay.
That's what government's best at.
Done with solar farms for now? Good.
We're all good
Yep.
with solar farms.
Good
We love them.
Good conversation.
That's a new opportunity zone for solar farms in this place. Countywide.
Okay, number 3 is about manufactured homes. A primary focus of Nash County's current land use plan is the appropriate placement of manufactured homes, single and double wide. A, are the current manufactured home regulations working well, or should they be changed? And if they should be changed, in what ways? So, is it working well currently? No? Doesn't appear to be an
I
overwhelming
think they're, as far
consensus.
as I know.
I don't know if they're working well or not working well, but I'll tell you what, when you see some of the permits pulled for them this day and time, they're very expensive.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask one more time. Are the current manufactured home regulations working well, or should they be changed? All those think they're working well? Okay. All those who think they should be changed? Okay.
I think one problem you've got with manufactured homes are these parks that were put in place many, many years ago, and they've deteriorated to such a state now that I guess they are kind of grandfathered in, and there's not much you can do about them. So I do hear complaints on the condition of those parks from time to time.
Are they located out in the county?
Yeah.
We got some of both.
Some in town, some in the county.
Got one on Halifax Road, looks terrible.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna give Adam some information on one of those tonight before I leave.
Okay. So condition of existing parks, older parks is one.
I think one of the biggest issues we have about the word manufactured home is a very misunderstood term.
What'd you say, Rudy?
It's a very misunderstood term to the public. I mean, Adam understands the categories of them. I don't, nor does many people in the public understand. I know the town I live in, they don't want to manufacture homes anywhere, but there are some very nice manufactured homes. Apparently because we're getting permits pulled in the $170,000 range.
Those are modular.
But it's
Yeah,
double wide,
to
single wide. and
clarify, when we're
modular.
talking
That's
about
the
manufactured homes, we're talking about single wides and double wides. A modular home is is manufactured to an extent, but it's constructed to the North Carolina Building Code, just like a regular stick-built house is. And we don't discriminate in our zoning ordinance between a stick-built home and a modular because they are built to the same code.
And that's what the public doesn't understand.
Right.
But the definition is sort of governed by state.
It is governed by the Building Code Council.
Right.
But what I was trying to get at here was really single wides and double wides.
Okay, well, if that's what we were talking
Right.
about, that's kind of a different angle.
And do we allow them in all zones?
We do not. We have RA zones that don't allow manufactured homes at all. We have R zones that will allow a double wide if it has a permanent brick curtain wall foundation underneath it. And the only place you can set up a single wide is in the A1 agricultural zone, which is the most rural of our areas. We have some grandfathering rules. If you have a single wide in one of those other zones, you can swap it out within a 6-month period. But single wide setup is restricted to the A1 agricultural zone only.
And if you have a couple of single, or a couple on the same lot, you can replace.
There's some
one.
grandfathering if you were already there.
So it's very restricted compared to most places, most counties.
Adam, you answered the question, do we have a problem with the ordinance we got?
I don't think we do. The reason I asked the question is that when we did this with the last land development plan, based on my reading of it, we had a lot of problems and a lot of consternation. My sense is that where we have it now has tamped down a lot of those complaints. And I just wanted to know if that was the general sense of everybody else too.
That was a pretty good
We
shape.
shall move on. And next up, airport development. Nash County regulates allowable height of tall structures around the Rocky Mount Wilson Regional Airport to ensure aircraft safety. The Airport Authority has asked Nash County to consider limiting residential development around the airport as well. Do you think Nash County should consider restricting residential development around the airport?
Yes, I think yes.
Yes. Do they say why they want
Yeah,
to
that's the
restrict it?
question, is why?
Safety.
In case planes crash into it.
Yeah, safety.
Fix
But it's
the problem
located
with
right
no
at the
Noise.
top.
Noise, you allow somebody to build, even though they're coming to the nuisance, in 10 years, they sell the house to somebody.
20 years ago,
And they won't
everything
complain
in
about
front
the
of the
noise.
airport.
The example I would give there is at our airport, there's still plenty of room around our airport. We own land on Highway 97. We don't need to allow a Sheetz to be built next to our airport. We need to allow for future expansion of the airport with land contiguous to the airport as much as we can.
So it's not necessarily just residential development, it's any development that would restrict the land for the airport potentially expanding.
I don't know what the airport's long-range plans are, Lenny, but we shouldn't do anything that would get in the way of their long-range plan.
That's what I'm talking about.
I agree.
Both residential should be all over.
We gave up a recycling center, a convenience center, that we had got ready to purchase the land. We were all ready to go. And the airport, even though it wasn't a landfill, they felt like birds would be attracted.
Well, it's a statute, it's got, you can't be within 10,000 feet of the airport.
Landfill.
Landfill.
As far as I'm concerned, it's convenience center.
Well, that's the way, I don't think we would have been prevented if we'd gone forward.
Well, I think.
We would have made some people mad.
That would have been a big mistake to go
Yeah.
forward with the
We did the right
airport
thing.
authority
Yeah, we
fight.
did.
We did the right thing.
Yeah.
preacher joining?
Yes.
10 years from now, a pilot hit a bird, it would be
Right.
because of that convenience center.
So,
But we're still looking.
I think
So I think one of the challenges of how that's worded is to just remember that there's a lot of residential development right at the reservoir, which is right at the airport. So on one side of the road maybe, but watch blank, there's a proximity issue with the reservoir and the desirable development prospects, and still along the reservoir in some of those areas.
And the water system.
You want to use
3 or 4
yours?
miles out away from the airport, I mean, around the airport, you don't need to build and butt up to the airport.
I agree.
Without knowing what their long-range plans are.
I think we should create some
And they're
buffers.
part of
just in
it.
case.
Yeah, I have
to say what you're saying.
Couldn't the county go in and put a, like a
Just have to
ETJ
preserve the right, the
around the
asset.
airport?
And the reservoir presents for residential building.
And some kind of airport.
Yeah, there's a flight zone.
They've got it in Goldsboro. Well, the zoning is, they'll tell you it's an airport.
It's a desirability.
The airport has recently, is in the process of finishing up and adopting their master plan. And they'll tell you what the buffers they want you to have. But the consequence is, when a developer comes in that area, Nash County has to be ready to say, no, because you're close to the airport, you're only gonna get this density. And that's a prime area.
Who's gonna pay the landowner for the land?
That's what, if you're setting up an overlay district, it's gonna cost money. It's gonna cost,
It is
if
gonna
the
cost.
airport
Down zoning.
authority's willing to pay that money.
Right.
If you set up an overlay district, somebody's gotta pay for that.
Ask
So,
DOT.
who's paying for it?
Well, they're broke right now.
Maybe that's a discussion we need to have at the airport.
Exactly, it is. They got the money, do it.
I know they're building, like 15 hangars out there right now, and hopefully they'll need 15 more in 15 years, so they gotta have a place to put them.
Are they gonna be putting flights out of there like they used to?
I don't think height restrictions, if they're reasonable, would necessarily be a
It'd
problem.
be nice if they would do.
And we already have
They
them.
do
We need to
something
do
with
everything we
showing
can to develop that airport.
Because it'll grow this area. It's a big
Star in the county.
Chris, did we get what I saw your hand up, but I don't know. that
Yeah, I was just saying, discover from them who's gonna pay for this.
That's right, okay. So,
Yeah.
put that
we
right
do.
there, okay, good. Okay, so number 5. The most cost-effective lots, this is about subdivision of lots along existing state roads. The most cost-effective lots for a residential developer to subdivide are those along existing state-maintained roads. Nash County currently requires larger lot widths along state-maintained roads that average over 1,000 vehicle trips per day to separate driveways and improve traffic safety. Do you think Nash County should further restrict the subdivision of lots along state-maintained roads? And if so, to what extent?
I think we need to find a way, when a developer gets a piece of property rezoned, not to have him come in there and develop all the roadside lots, and then you don't see him anymore. I don't know what the answer to that is, but we've got a problem with that.
Yeah. Okay, so the comment is,
We need, yes, today.
Well, we've currently got a subdivision that's come to us. It's got roads on 3 sides. The developer has done a cluster, and gone all the way around it. He's got the open space in part of it. Then he's got like some land here that is for future development, and we know it will never be developed. The problem is, probably won't be developed. The problem is, what happens long-term to that piece of property if you don't have a homeowners association cutting it, if it's not part of the commons area, it's just sitting there, growing up in everybody's backyard. That was, I think, what I expressed a concern about is, could we require as part of that approval for those road front lots to go ahead and require
Build another road.
the other road and develop the rest of the non-commons part of the property?
Which is what you've done, isn't it?
I don't know how you can require somebody to develop something.
I don't know either. I'm just saying, we've got a situation.
We got a problem there, we don't know
Part-
the solution.
Part of the way you've chosen to address that is to not proceed with more rezoning until you see what's
Well,
gonna
that's-
happen on that
That's what I'm
parcel.
saying, effectively, you've done that. I mean, you've handcuffed him so, until he develops that first 30 acres. I think it was 30 acres. 35 acres. The whole thing. So I guess that's one way of doing it, but.
But if he gets another piece of property down the street, should just, he can do a different LLC or a different entity or a different person, so you really can't control it.
Could we not make a,
Yeah.
change the regulations to where when they develop this land, that there would only be so many roads coming off onto the state road, where the backs of the houses would back up to the state road, and you'd have one road coming out.
You can do it that way.
And,
I've
you
seen
know,
that.
kinda like what David Williams did off 97, you
Right.
go in,
Yeah.
all the lots are interior lots.
Right.
And your back of your, and you see this all the time in certain areas, you'll see the backs of the houses facing, but everybody goes into the subdivision.
Yep.
And you could put a regulation in there, we will only allow so many cuts off onto the state road.
I think it needs to be on the list to look at.
Right.
But that does increase development costs.
It does, but that's the only way you're gonna limit it, create that safety issue also with so many driveways coming off onto that road.
That's right.
So it sounds like the answer is
Yes.
yes.
That's right.
We should
But
further.
it's not all, you know,
Yes, with conditions. With conditions that Adam wrote down. Is that right? Okay.
It's a whole lot safer too, even with low density roads.
I mean, I know one county that limited it to 5 lots road frontage
Per mile.
per development. But all you have to do is get your son to develop the next one and you're,
You got to do it some other way.
yeah, yeah.
Required to connect to some else, you know, to.
Right.
Yeah. Floodplain regulations. Flooding related to hurricanes continues to pose a major threat to eastern North Carolina. Nash County currently enforces the minimum floodplain requirements necessary to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. The exception is that Nash County requires an additional foot of elevation height for structures built in the special flood hazard area. Do you think Nash County's current floodplain development regulations are adequate, or are additional restrictions needed?
I think they're adequate.
I think they're
At 1
adequate.
foot. I
Say
think
what?
At 1 foot, I
Adequate?
think they're adequate.
Okay.
That's 1 foot more than you got to have.
Okay, let's roll on. And anybody else? We're good, okay.
These were done in 2006, right? That's what we're talking
The
about.
plan was done in 2006, but the ordinance was done in 98 and has been amended, you know, throughout the years.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, Floyd was in 99.
Right.
So if we didn't have any problems, you know, then we shouldn't have.
The
It ain't
maps,
gonna get no worse than Floyd.
the maps are since 99.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, so.
What happens is, because it's not a specific height, it's 1 foot above the base flood, or 1 foot above
Well, you
that.
got to do
When
that.
the maps change, it changes.
That's right.
It changes what you have to do.
Right.
So when we get changes in the firm maps, then different places that get affected, it shifts with the map change.
So we're saying that the 1 foot is above the minimum?
Is above the 100-year flood.
Required.
Is above the minimum, yes.
Yes.
At the time of permitting. That can change.
Right.
Okay. Accessory dwelling units. Some jurisdictions permit the development of accessory dwelling units or second homes built on the same lot as a primary home, but separate and smaller. Sometimes called mother-in-law suites or backyard cottages, they typically do not require as much lot area or width as primary homes. Do you think Nash County should explore the possibility of allowing accessory dwelling units under certain circumstances? Yes.
We don't currently.
What do we got currently? I don't even know.
Right now, if you're a dwelling, then you need a certain amount of lot frontage and lot area. And there's no provision for you having an accessory dwelling that's separate from that one unless you make an entirely different lot that has the same amount of lot area and frontage that you need. We're getting more and more requests about this as people have, you know, as the population is aging, people want to bring their parents closer to them. we get these sometimes in the guise of a pool house.
Yeah.
Because they'll change the floor plan and you'll have a game room that has a walk-in closet and a bathroom. You know, and it would be, if this is something Nash County is nice to, something Nash County is agreeable to, it would be nice to have a method where somebody could do it without having to lie about their intentions for doing it.
Do they ever build a pool?
Sometimes.
But they got a pool house.
And there's, yeah, because they built it before they built the pool. I don't know how
You sound like you want some.
I think we should with restrictions.
Right. I would like to have some method for somebody to be able to build a little house in certain circumstances to house, you know, somebody that needs to be nearby, where they don't have, where I don't have to go through these gymnastics of lying about a pool house. But if we don't want that, now's the time to say it. I don't think we want to blow it wide open.
No, I agree with that, but I don't think you need to be putting responsibility in the ordinance to have to go check somebody's blood pressure or sugar or something to see if you're really legit either.
So what'll happen 10 years from now,
For the depth of the
when mama
water.
dies, they're gonna rent it out?
That's exactly right. So that's the consequences. They might build it as mother-in-law suite, but mother-in-law's gonna pass away, and then you have a second dwelling on that lot, and they're gonna bring a tenant in there, and we have to be able to live with those consequences, because we can't regulate whether something is owner occupied or renter occupied.
You need to address that up front then. If mother-in-law's suite, you can't rent it out.
Well, I got one on my claim. I don't ever remember being a problem.
Yeah, but you got more than 20,000 property.
So, are we in consensus with yes with
I heard
restrictions?
now that.
Yes, with restrictions on square footage
Yeah.
of the.
I got 30,000.
lot. Yeah.
Okay. And, let's see, then the next one is site plan requirements. I'm gonna need to flip this thing for that.
All of us on that last one were not a yes, by the way.
I understand that.
Okay.
But it seemed like more were yeses than
Okay.
nos, so. By the way, there will be a public comment and all that kind of stuff process once you get the consultant in and all that.
Dan just said, who knows
Yeah.
what's gonna happen
Yeah.
5 to 10 years.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's a lot more discussion than what we have time for tonight on all of that. Okay, so site plan requirements. Nash County currently does not require a site plan prepared by a licensed land surveyor prior to building a new structure. As a result, structures are sometimes discovered to have been built inside a required setback, or more rarely, over a property line. Requiring surveyed site plans can significantly increase the cost of a development project. Do you think Nash County should consider requiring surveyed site plans in some cases, such as when a new structure is proposed to be built within a certain distance from a property line?
No.
Yes.
No.
Uh-oh.
Well, what happens if they build over the line?
Property, you get what you just.
And then come back to the.
Vince makes a little money.
Seriously, what happens?
I
So
think-
if you don't meet those requirements, what
Can't
happens?
He got to represent.
Well, what you require now is you require the contractor to go out there and pull a string on a property line so you can check the setback.
When it's tight, but that contractor has no way of verifying any better than we do where the line is unless a surveyor gets involved. So we verify to what they mark, but then if that turns out to not be the case, we have our hands tied to a certain extent, because as we've had some conversations recently, our only option is to take somebody to court to have a building that was built too close to a property line torn down, and the court is not likely to see it our way. And so, and I would never advocate having surveyed site plans in all cases, but all I want to explore is, let's say that you have a 12-foot side setback and somebody's proposing to build the building at 15 feet. Is that close enough that we have to get a surveyor involved?
I don't see why you need to have the jurisdiction of checking everything a contractor does. I'm sorry, I'm a contractor, I know that. But are you gonna go count the nails I got in or two before? I mean, we got responsibility in our own industry to do it right. If we don't do it right, we got to face the consequences.
Are there counties you do business in that require site plan?
I don't know of any.
There's some
I'm not
lenders-
saying there aren't
there's
any, I'm
some
sure it
lenders
is.
that still require a foundation survey. And that will show you the setbacks on that foundation survey. So the lenders are.
Before you build the whole house.
Right,
or the whole
because
garage.
the lenders are trying to protect themselves.
Well, if the lender requires it, that's another thing, I understand that.
Right, but what I'm saying is, this is not something we can get into. Let them do their job and then deal with the contractor if the contractor screws up.
Yeah, that's,
But the problem is they can do a deal with me because I'm the one that has a set of setback
Exactly.
requirements
Right.
in the ordinance. And so they come to the county to enforce the rule, and that's where I'm left without a tool to do it.
Well, see, years ago, every house that a loan was made on, the bank had a survey done on it.
That's right. You
And
didn't have
about
this-
fif-
you didn't have these bills.
Right, and about
Well, if the
15
bank-
years
the
ago, they
bank need
wanted
to
to
be the
cut
one to
some
do
of
it,
the
it's their
cost
money.
out, they did away with it. But now, on a new home, they still require a foundation survey, most of the lenders I work for.
that's where it should be required at, not in the county.
I guess what you're saying is, what's the point of having a setback requirement if he can't enforce it because it's, the court won't recognize his authority if he didn't require certain things to happen on the front end?
Well, Jeff, what's the need of having a building code then?
Okay, well, that's, I guess
it's
the same
thing.
point applies.
I mean, we got some responsibility in our industry, just like if you make a bad loan, is it your problem? Yes, it's your problem.
Of course it is.
Oh, all right then. You want a regulation keeping you from making a bad loan?
If,
It's the landowner that we're dealing with, not the builder. And we're telling the landowner, you gotta tear your garage down.
Well, he still got a building his house.
Rob, if I-
Courts generally, though, are
You
not
got,
gonna.
lawyers are gonna
But
earn
Robbie,
money.
if I didn't tell him to pay every month, and he does, you know, I gotta tell him to do certain things by contract. So if I don't have a contract and tell him what to do, then I've got no right to, exactly. So, you know, I see what you're saying. That would be a little,
Well,
it'd be intense
It's
to
gonna
have
add
a survey.
$300 to the cost of every house.
So maybe have a little
You
more
got that.
discussion on this down the road?
Yeah.
Investigate.
Yeah, I mean, the manager made a comment earlier that if we've got it on the books, that we need to enforce it, and we currently have setbacks on the books that we can't enforce. I have a neighbor that built a garage 3 foot off of the line instead of 5 foot off of the line, and there's nothing that the county's gonna do about it.
I don't understand what, well, that's another discussion.
We're gonna move on to the next one, because we have 25 minutes to get out of here. We still have a bunch to
I have a property
do.
survey and discovered that they were
Okay.
right there.
Number 9, public engagement. Every planning effort needs to include the participation of the community citizens. As Nash County moves forward with updating its land development plan, what general level of public engagement do you think would be appropriate? For example, how many public meetings should be held? In what locations should they be held? So again, this is about public participation and public engagement in those decisions that are already required, but you can add to it, I guess is what the,
Part of our request for proposal will specify the level of public engagement we want that consultant to assist us in engaging with. And of course, the more we do, the higher the cost of the plan is gonna be. So this is an early attempt to try to gauge, what do you think is reasonable in terms of engaging with the public?
Well, the first thing, I think you need to spread any public, engagement throughout the county. I mean, maybe 3 sites in the county, possibly. What do others think? But don't do it all in Nashville.
I agree with
I
that.
agree with that. Northern, southern, central.
I agree with that. Totally.
The three
Is that what I heard?
county high schools. The 3 county high schools, not Rocky Mount, but the 3 northern, central, and southern.
I guess my problem is northern and central
Northern
aren't
and
that far
Central are
apart.
a mile and a half apart.
That's true. That's
We want it
true.
national.
You need to go somewhere north.
That's true. That's true. I'd say 3 would be.
okay, and then figure out where from there.
Northern, southern, central.
Okay.
No,
No.
because northern and.
Northern.
No, I'm not talking about high schools, the northern part of the
Okay,
county.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Find somewhere
crossed high
up
schools
in
off
Miss
here.
Richardson's district
Yeah,
and do
like
what?
Avonton.
You go
Or
Swift
Drake.
Creek, you
Or
go Swift
Drake.
Creek School.
Well, yeah.
Swift Creek.
City limits.
Oh,
Almost. Planning.
yes, it is.
Okay, so we have one more, I
Wish this
think
would be a
this is
good
the last
spot.
question. I think, yep. And then we get to play with maps and markers. Woo, 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 for about 20 minutes. So other topics, are there any
Ladies,
other
do
land
you-
development topics that have not yet been discussed that you think should be considered as part of the plan update process? What did we miss?
Sue, is there anything about the ag industry that you are sensitive to that we need to take under consideration during this process? Because there are a lot of yous in this county.
Well, Nancy and I
Got
kind of
any
had
of
a
those thoughts?
sidebar about,
I'm
having areas where development can occur, where there is more flexibility and openness to development.
And some areas that are less than,
Yes.
to reserve somewhat.
So,
Phrase that like, tell me what you mean by that.
Just refining the development districts. Carefully defining the development districts.
Or should we say carefully define the agricultural districts? Does that make it more clear what you're trying to do?
You can.
Farming preservation district?
I mean, my farms are not necessarily gonna be designated as preservation.
Well, preservation is a bad word, that takes
Yeah, that
another,
takes-
another whole.
You can have agriculture district without regulations. Meaning, in other words, when I say without regulations, it means
find the
that you
agricultural development
can't
district.
develop it into something else other than agriculture.
Yeah, it's to reserve some districts for primarily agriculture.
Landowners that has rolled out of generations of what it desires, you gotta be careful how you do
Like right now, the farmer's gonna do better to sell lots than they are farming, because farming's not doing good right now. Anytime builders are doing good, farmers are not.
that. I understand, I do.
That's why all this.
That's why I've always.
So you're,
Just real quick.
what you're talking about is, like they were saying first, everything's R40.
Instead of just having a blanket, you
R40
have it
have-
more specific.
The A1 district.
In the A1 districts.
I just think there needs to be a broader discussion with the municipalities, the smaller municipalities, to see what their thinking is on the development of rural areas outside of their ETJs, and exactly what is their long-range hopes and plans for Bailey and Middlesex. I mean, because if you go up there, it's pretty sad, really.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to build up there, you know, you may never develop. I mean, I would think you'd want it to be more than a bedroom community. I think you'd want people to come sleep there and spend there, not just come sleep there and leave. Have there been any discussions with those municipalities?
Is that something we need to bring into the mix?
Well, I think.
Well, I've had that same thought, but the thing that I come back to also is, that's what the ETJ is for.
I'm gonna say, they get a mile to
They're
2
already
miles, yeah.
exercising control outside of their municipal limits. So now we're on the edge of the ETJ. You know, at a certain point, it's our responsibility. But there can't be anything wrong with talking with the municipalities.
Do all of them have an ETJ, unlike Rocky Mount where it's all gone?
No, Castelia does not have an ETJ. Red Oak doesn't have an ETJ, but it has very large municipal limits.
We had an ETJ, it's taken Rusty County.
That's right. That's
But I
right.
would think you might learn something by getting together and what are we thinking versus what are you thinking, and what do we see this place being in 10 years?
Right.
Other than just what it is now.
And perhaps if we could actively try to ensure that when we have our public meetings, that representatives from the town are involved in that.
I think you almost need to add another meeting and have all them.
Add a meeting for the municipal representatives.
Wayne, is that what you think? Sounds good
I
to
just
me.
think that'd be a good meeting to have, hear what they think.
Well, you know, these smaller municipalities, if they had enough sewer capacity to run it out into the county,
for development, not necessarily pulling the subdivision into their municipality, but running it out. It's a moneymaker for them also. Once they
Just about all of them now insist,
I don't
as you
think-
know, that you annex. If
Yeah.
you want these services, you've got to annex.
They're struggling to maintain what they have.
Yeah, they can't annex other than
As small as they
voluntary
are, can't they
annexation.
get government grants to
Yep.
increase their capacities and things?
Yeah.
So
They
regionalize, but they have to make that decision to try to regionalize. And you've
I mean,
got
I do
Middlesex
appraisals
pulling
in
from
some
Wake.
other counties that I'll ask, I said, you got a septic tank? Oh, no, I got town water. They're 5 miles from the town, and they're not in the ETJ. I'm sitting there scratching my head. How are you getting town water? Well, they run it all out here.
That ought to be in a discussion, like an economic development discussion. that-
Nashville will not do it though. Nashville will not they won't give you water or sewage unless you annex. Whether
Well,
you're
no over Rocky Mountain.
nor will Rocky Mountain.
Well, wouldn't that have been a good way for growth to start from within instead of from without trying to get in? If these municipalities had foresight enough to see, you know, if these developments come into town or into ETJ, and then as it grew, the ETJ or they could have annexed and kept growing the town rather than starting out here in the middle of the country somewhere trying to grow back to the town. I think it all started backwards somewhere. That we're trying to develop it when they should have been the ones that should have started from the town and come out. And I think that's what Cary and Garner and those places have done. And we're looking at it backwards, or we started backwards.
And that's why that's personal. I said I wasn't gonna do this, but I'm gonna, because I think that's a good idea to talk with them about that stuff and get them as partners, make them partners somehow.
I
Yes, sir.
wanted to ask Adam this question, because do you think we addressed that temporary worker camp sufficiently? Do we need to address that now?
We have, since we adopted those regulations, nobody has, the truth is that the pipeline stalled
Right.
out, so we haven't seen.
But it could come with something else, or it could start again, so should we look at this now, or just, if?
Well, I mean, we can always look at that. I think that the pipeline presents a very unique situation that perhaps we might not deal with again. What he's talking about is a proposal, that's a proposal to house pipeline workers for the Dominion pipeline that's coming through. And so some relaxed mobile home park or RV park regulations for a temporary housing arrangement.
That's what they're looking for.
Right. The truth is, we haven't seen the results of what we've done because the pipeline has stalled. And
I'm just saying, should we get out ahead of it and be ready for the next one, or just let it pass? That's what I'm.
I don't know.
Some of that You do. You approved a set of regulations that somebody could go through to set up a temporary work camp in relationship to a big project like that. But we haven't had any results because after that happened, they haven't brought the workers to construct a pipeline.
I think you create a solution looking at a problem.
Do we
Okay.
need to talk about watershed regulations?
temporarily. That's all it is temporary.
I put that on here as a list, but we're not gonna talk about it.
Well,
Do we
when you
need
say
to talk
watershed
about-
regulations, the ones that we have to enforce watershed regulations from the state. So are you talking about going above and beyond the state?
No.
Or, I mean, we kind of are stuck doing what the state says we have to do in the
I
watershed.
don't think we can do greater than what the state
Right.
requires anymore.
Okay, on your tables, each table has a map. Somebody start unraveling the map on your table. Make room for the map to be spread out. Because now we're gonna do group map exercises for the next, we're gonna go over 8:30, I'm sorry. But not much.
We can't go much. I gotta go at 4 o'clock in the morning.
And then you have some marker pens, also some Sharpies on your table. Make sure you can write on that map if you have room and nothing underneath the map. You wanna leave this one? Or you want me to? It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter.
I just want to pronounce the things over
Okay. Oh, okay, good.
As you look at the map, I'm gonna refer up here, of course, we've already talked about the municipal areas are grayed out, that's where we don't have jurisdiction. We do have your major roads on here, your major highways. We talked a little bit about 3 public utility districts that have been set up. We have the Central Nash Water Sewer District, that's inside the pink lines. We have the Northern Nash Water Sewer District up here in Red Oak and Dorches. And then we have a future water sewer district that's kind of a crescent around here where the actual water line expansion has not made it into that area. We also have a Castelia water system up here that doesn't have a district, but is there nonetheless. You see a lot of dots here. These are your communities and crossroads. A lot of times you'll have a rural commercial area designated there. The purple areas are the areas that were identified for industrial growth back in 2006. You've got a big Vandemark Farms tract up here near I-95, the Whitaker's Business and Industry Center, and then of course McLean on the other side of the road. Universal Leaf, the former Masonite site that's between Spring Hope and Momire, the airport, and then the 97 economic development site. So I just wanted to make sure you were kind of aware of all the things that are shown on the map, and then Bruce is going to go through the activities that we have.
All right. So, on your map, as Adam said, he's already described what is on your map. So what we want to find out at this right now is, are there any additional specific areas not currently highlighted that you think should be considered for rural, general, commercial growth, or industrial growth?
If you look at the color key up on the screen, rural commercial is in kind of a pinkish color. If you see Taylor Store Road up here east of Castelia, that's an example of a rural commercial. General commercial is in a darker red color, like Winston Crossroads, or over here underneath Momire. And then the industrial we already went over is the purple. So are there any areas that you would like to eliminate? Are there any areas you'd like to expand, or new areas you'd like to add?
Why is Middlesex Corporate Center not included?
Because it's inside Middlesex,
Okay.
it's grayed out.
Okay.
Because it's not in our planning jurisdiction.
So both things, I would take one at a time, but added any additional specific areas not currently highlighted. And do you think any of the currently highlighted areas in Nash County should be removed from consideration for future commercial or industrial growth? So they're up here, 1 and 2. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do both of those things, and we'll see where we're at in 5 minutes.
We're going to be pretty free with your marker colors.
There's a little store right there.
It's already there.
Off of 48.
Because right now, let's say that.
Who over here can tell us what your thought process was in general?
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we're looking down here towards where Johnston County, Wake County's coming in, and we're looking at these areas being high. The area around Samaria, medium to high, because they are starting to develop some of these lots in here. Around 231, 98 corridor high, medium around Edwards Crossroads, Corinth area, low up in the northern part of the county, and low up to the northeastern part of the county. These areas right in here that's still in the county that's adjacent to Rocky Mountain, we put medium, north of Dorches. Back down here towards the reservoir, medium to high. So that's where we are.
Okay. Thank you.
And I think y'all do too, Mr. Lou, because that's just the way it is, and it takes, a lot of development to get there. These are medium areas, Gold Rock North, and that's Gold South. We use high for this area from Middlesex Valley all the way up Springs, through Spring Hook, because you see what it borders with Franklin County and Wake County right down there.
The 2 highways.
2 highways. And we talked about considering this as medium density, but I think the last word is pretty much gonna take care of itself down around the airport.
And the reservoir.
and the reservoir.
And we put little bowls around there for commercial. On the red area.
We'll have that commercial, and commercial up here, Salem and Avon.
We kind of did the same thing for residential low towards the northern part of the county. We did focus on expanding industrial areas. We put high surrounding the areas in between Red Oak and Dorches and Nashville because we were already seeing that growth, and kind of on the outskirts of these municipal areas, medium around the reservoir, low kind of central Nash. We want to do medium high along the 64 corridor and the same along the southern part and going into the Wilson area where we're already seeing some growth on the other side of Wilson, Johnson, and Wake counties. Expanded our commercial districts around some of our interchanges and in between, especially with the I-95 and Eastern Avenue expansion. Anything else?
But from my standpoint, y'all did great. Thank you for letting me be part of this project, and hope to see you soon.
Bruce is gonna help us synthesize the results we got tonight and kind of boil it down to some main points that we want to pursue. And then keep in mind that we're gonna involve a consultant who's gonna come to the table with their own ideas, which is part of what we're paying them for. And so we might have things that we talk about that we didn't cover tonight. But we'll keep you posted on that process as we go through. And mostly, I just want to thank you for your being engaged and being here. I do, in a second, I'm going to ask you to adjourn the planning board since Liddy had to step out, and we'll begin again next Monday. Recognize Mr. Davis here.
Adam, this group, could you tell in 20 words or less what this group's participation will be moving forward through this process?
Well,
or what's the next steps and get us to
right.
the finish line?
I'm gonna be honest with you, this is a new process for me, so I'm figuring it out as we go. But both boards will be engaged with the consultant will probably provide presentations to both boards. And it'll probably be not just at the end when the plan is ready, but some portion during the process so that you get some more input into what we're getting before it's time to vote on the final process.
And not having a big meeting like this, but going to select meetings throughout the county, so you're getting involved in the public, hearing what the public has to say, and then getting your own opinion across at that time.
Yes, sir.
I do agree with Mr. Alvord. I think, if we begin this process, we ought to meet with
the municipalities.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that's clear that we don't, probably will have an extra meeting which will be specifically to talk with our municipal people. And both boards will be invited to engage in those public meetings as well. And I would really encourage you to do it because otherwise you're functioning in a vacuum if you're not hearing what everybody has to say.
If you are true, and I'm not sure you were because I remember something, but if this group had never got together in 10 years, we ought to have some format to do this more regularly. Because I've learned a lot here tonight.
I have too. So would you be willing, as we go forward in this process, to perhaps have this meeting one or two more times when we're dealing with our consultant?
I think, I certainly would. I can't speak to nobody else, but I think it's been a good process.
I do too. I was really pleased with the results and the level of engagement that we got, and I really appreciate that.
I don't know what frequency it should be with the municipalities, but
right.
We need to meet.
Well, that's all I have. You have anything, Bruce?
Sounds like a come-by-ya moment, so let's go.
We have to adjourn.
Bob, you adjourn.
Recess.
Yeah, we're gonna let Jeff adjourn us because we have a separately advertised meeting we're gonna hold on Monday night.
Your other business for adjourned?
Thank you.
And, board officials, we go on, I need a motion to recess this meeting to 6 o'clock on the 19th of February at Nash Central High School in the Media Center.
So moved.
Have a motion, and a second, and a second, and a second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed by like sign? We are recessed.
Thank you.